I think my symptoms were kind of in the same ballpark in terms of severity, but for me, it was really more like of an emotional rock bottom because I had just lost all hope, like going from doctor to hospital to specialist. Luckily, like I heard back from your program and ended up getting in, I think like a few weeks after I replaced my, request in. It's very crazy to see the rate at which I've progressed over the last few months. Currently, I'm lifting like 3 or 4 days a week, quite heavy, like heavy weights in the gym. I'm squatting, I'm benching, I'm deadlifting. I'm doing like really heavy stuff and it feels good. Like my muscles are coming back and I'm feeling more energetic and strong.
How's it going, guys? Miguel here from CFS Recovery. In this video, we have John, who has been crushing it. He's back working out now very intensely. He's doing some big movements. His capacity is way, way higher than before. And I just wanted to bring him on here to share his inspiring journey with you guys, especially people who are into fitness, working out, because, that's something he was really into before. And now he's doing it again, absolutely killing it. So John, super excited to have you on here. You want to quickly introduce yourself to everybody?
Sure. I'm John Frame. I'm 29 years old. I live in Chicago, Illinois, and yeah, I'm just really happy to be here.
Yeah. So, yeah, maybe just take us back and tell us how all of this happened. I know when we first started working together not too long ago, but 4 months ago, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, you had already done a lot of recovering, right? You already worked your way back up from depths of CFS, but what was life like right before you got sick? Maybe paint that picture for us.
Sure. So, right before I got sick, I was definitely kind of burning the candle at both ends, I would say. And both, with work, just working very high stress job, late nights a lot of times, and also trying to push myself very physically too, both, in the gym and in the office. So, kind of leading up to that, I had been working, really hard and pushing way too hard, probably for about a year. And that kind of leading me into what I think like triggered ultimately the CFS was, I think in May of 2021, I think I got like a vaccine injury from that. I'm not sure if you want me to say that, by the way. I know
No,
that can be
definitely say it, man, because that vaccine messed up a lot of people.
Dude, it does. I know a lot of people like
Yeah.
kind of get mad at me for saying that, but ultimately, like in May of 2021, when I got that vaccine, I noticed, like looking back at it, that was when things really slowly started to onset for me. I
Mm.
kept getting sick like every other week, I would say, with just these flu-like symptoms, and wasn't really recovering well from workouts or stressful days. And so about 6 months later, or that December, that's when I actually got COVID, and that was like a bomb just going off in my body. Although I did like recover from it, like it wasn't that bad, my acute infection. I recovered from it and I tried to just return back to normal life. And I noticed like I just could not. That's when I entered basically the world of CFS.
Wow, so that's interesting. So you're pretty much living life and you were burning the candle on both ends a little bit, but things really changed after you got that first shot. And then you noticed you were getting sick easier, and were you a bit more tired all the time too? And you were kind of symptomatic?
Yeah, I was definitely um, taking way longer, like abnormally long naps, I would say, like during the middle of the day. But it would feel like not just tired, it would feel like I was in, pain and kind of like flu like
Mm.
type of stuff.
Yeah, so you felt pretty sick, and then COVID comes along 6 months later and just kind of wipes you out for a bit, right? So when it hit you, what was that like? I mean, what kind of symptoms did you feel initially when for that first week, maybe when you got it, the first week or two?
Yeah, like initially, I really didn't even notice anything severe. I actually think that I had it for a little bit, and I didn't really listen to my body until my throat was like clearly strep throat, which made me go to the doctor. And the doctor thought it was literally just strep. So they gave me antibiotics, but they like ended up testing me for COVID too, and they're like, "Oh crap, you have COVID and strep."
Oh, that
So
sounds rough.
take care of yourself.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy though. I really didn't feel that sick, and definitely just kept like kind of masking it with Dayquil and Nyquil and using all these unhealthy ways of trying to just push through it.
Yeah. So that leads us into 2022, right? After you kind of come back from COVID, but things were never quite the same after that. Like you never really bounced back to your normal levels.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
I would just like once I recovered from it, I just tried to go right back into working out, and it was like these 5 day long flare ups with my heart racing and these like flu like symptoms that I just couldn't shake off, and yeah, it was
Mm,
just really
yeah.
crazy.
Got it. So like 5 day flare ups and things like that. Now, in terms of capacity, just to give people an idea of where you were, how bad did it get? Like when you were at your worst, what did that look like? Were you able to still function or were you just on the couch all day?
I think for me, when I was at my worst, I think my symptoms were kind of in the same ballpark in terms of severity, but for me, it was really more like of an emotional rock bottom
Mm,
because I had just lost all hope, like going from doctor to hospital to specialist, and had actually like been diagnosed with Lyme disease. So my hopes got up really high, and they put me on like 2 months of antibiotics, and that didn't work. And she was like, "Well, I think you might just be sick for the rest of your life like this." And so like
man,
my hopes went up, and then they just got completely crushed.
that's the worst.
And,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's the worst. I've had that so many times where you think you found the solution, you're like, aha, this might be it. Finally, I found the answer. And then it kind of backfires where
mhm,
like I was given medication and it made me even worse. I was like, wow. Like I got my hopes up
yeah,
and just I got rug pulled essentially.
right.
So that's wild. So you got diagnosed with Lyme disease. Was that from a test or just based on the symptoms you were describing to them?
It was based on a blood test. Yeah,
Mm,
she took a bunch of probably like 50 vials of blood out of me.
holy cow.
So
But it didn't help at all. Did you feel worse after that from the antibiotics or the same?
I actually, it was probably like a placebo effect. Because I'm safe. It was almost like I tricked my nervous system into thinking I'm safe, like with the placebo.
True. Yeah.
And so I ended up pushing like way too hard with in the weight room during that time period. And I had like one of the most severe crashes that I've ever experienced. And it was a really, really scary place.
Oh man. And how long was that? How long did that take you out for?
Um, it was for me, like I've heard of people with really long ones, but that one was only like a week and a half to 2 weeks. But I also like Zyrtec and some antihistamines kind of probably helped shorten that a little bit.
Hmm. Hmm. Got
So
it.
it may have been longer.
Yeah, got it. And when you're on this merry-go-round of doctors and specialists, because I mean, this is a very common thing we hear with pretty much every single story. That's kind of how people find us, is they're tired of doing all these tests, so they take matters into their own hands to try to look for solutions. So for you, what were they telling you when you were going to all these doctors and specialists and clearly something was wrong and you're looking for help? What were they telling you?
Yeah. Initially, my primary doctor, which I probably need to find a different one because I'm still so upset. He told me I was just this is just part of getting older. And
Weren't
I
you
was
like
literally like
27 at the time?
I was so mad that I was literally like hysterically laughing. I was like, this is not just get like I'm like 27,
You're
28
getting
years
old,
old.
man. You're 27. This is
I
how it works. It's
Yeah, like
crazy.
that is just an asinine thing to say to anyone. And yeah, like he thought, okay, well, I just want to double check your lungs, double check, the rheumatoid arthritis or the rheumatologist. So then we went down that rabbit hole, found nothing, and paying a lot of money out of pocket for those investigations. And then I kind of gave up for a little bit, and was on the wait list for like an actual long COVID clinic that's
Hmm.
ran by Northwestern Hospital here, like Northwestern University in
Hmm.
Chicago. And that was like the light at the end of the tunnel for me. I was like, oh man, these guys definitely know what's going on. I just got to
Yeah.
wait and I'll figure it out. And after like 3 months or so being on the wait list, I went in and this doctor was looking at me like I was just a crazy person, like telling
Wow.
him my symptoms.
That's
And
crazy.
yeah, like, because I didn't have the shortness of breath or my legs weren't like dark blue or whatever, like some of the crazy stuff that you hear that can
Hmm.
happen. Like I didn't have, I just had these basically the post exertional malaise kind of autoimmune nervous system reaction. And yeah, he was just like, I'm sorry, I just have never heard of any of that. Like he just had no next steps. Basically, it was just like good luck.
He was just like,
I
that's
was like, dude, what?
interesting. And you're like waiting for a solution, and he's just like, yeah, well, yeah, basically, good luck. That's
Yeah,
crazy. And they were supposed to specialize in technically long COVID, right? Which
right.
is kind of what you had. And you were waiting for 3 months patiently, probably counting the days down to finally get this solution. And I mean, what was that like? Because that must have been a huge blow to just, you know, feeling hopeless. You were already feeling hopeless prior to that. So, what was that experience like for you?
I was so depressed and anxious. It almost feels like a dream. Like I almost every day was just the same. Like it was almost just like this dream twilight, era for me where I was like I would lug myself to work, feeling symptoms, being just so scared and frustrated at them, which would just amplify them. But still like functional enough to like go to work and just, but that adds like kind of you're trying to act like everything's okay in front of everyone, but you're not sure. And like every day, just kind of waiting for that, I was like just Googling like long COVID in Google
Oh,
search
man,
every single day
the
for,
rabbit holes.
yeah.
Dang.
And they would just, it's like amazing that they're still doing that. Like these, media outlets and even like the government just has no idea what's going on. And they, for some reason, won't listen to the people that actually like, like you or anyone that has actually recovered. Yeah, it was the most just like hopeless and depressed that I've ever felt.
Yeah. And when was that last year? Because right now, at the time of this recording, it's August 2023. This was last year, right? When you're going through all this.
Yeah, this was like last fall and winter.
Got it. So less than a year ago, actually. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So it was quite the intense journey for that first year, this kind of roller coaster of trying to figure this all out. And meanwhile, all this time you're still working, but you're very symptomatic trying to figure out this health issue, right? Without any answers. And then eventually you came across my content. When did that happen? Or how did you even
Yeah.
find like this approach?
So I can't remember what, like, I guess I just decided to try switching from Google to YouTube and just kind of listening. And like, I think I looked up like long COVID recovery stories. And I can't remember if I found you or Raylan Agel first,
Hmm.
but I was kind of just going down the wormhole with the rabbit hole with both of you guys at the same time and just kind of digesting everything. And that to me was just like the light bulb in my head went off. I was like, this is curable. Like, there's actually hope and this is possible to recover from. And yeah, and I bought Raylan's book and like read that in like the fastest I've ever read anything in my entire life. But she like had the same thing happen where like she thought she had Lyme disease.
Hmm.
So like the same sequence of events happened for her. And I was like, this is literally what I have. Like long COVID is actually chronic fatigue syndrome.
Hmm.
And yeah, and so I had kind of at that point, I think I connected the dots and I was like, I need to sign up for a program for this. I need help from like people who have actually recovered. And at that point, luckily, like I heard back from your program and ended up getting in, I think like a few weeks after I placed my, request in. And yeah, that like learning just the fundamentals for me were so huge because like the way that you go into the mindset, which is like the best possible thing to do because it's all like it sounds crazy at first, but it's like these are all emotions. These symptoms are emotions.
Hmm.
And just getting that like mindset right and then going into the technicalities of basically the nervous system is a muscle, and it just needs to be retrained like properly, just as if, you're retraining your muscles in the gym. Like, and they're going to get sore. You're going to get
Mm-hmm.
symptoms, but you don't
Mm-hmm.
freak out at those. When your muscles get sore, you don't freak out. So it was just crazy. And like, as I kind of just started like taking in everything so much, it was so fascinating. And then I found out about this guy, Alan Gordon, who's
Mm-hmm.
like a chronic pain guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, oh my God. So chronic fatigue syndrome is basically the same as also chronic pain, in the sense that it's all a mind body syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
It's all fear. Like the pain is fear, the flu like symptoms are fear. It doesn't matter what the symptoms are, it's all caused by a dysregulated nervous system that just thinks the world is dangerous.
Yeah, it's like a glitch in the brain essentially, right? And once you learn that your body is actually okay, and your chest is fine, your heart's okay, and your body isn't shutting down, and that it's just a glitch in the way your brain is communicating with your body based on a lot of emotions and just, you know, the inappropriate neural pathways being used, then that's when the light bulb goes off. And once that makes sense, because Junior was telling me you dove deep into the content, and he told me you got it like very quickly, which I think is why you've made such leaps in your progress. Once that light bulb goes off, it becomes so much easier to keep things logical versus getting emotional about symptoms. Like you just remind yourself when you're flaring up, oh, okay, this is no different than working out and getting sore. Like it's very similar because that's the way I thought about it as well. But for you, what were some other big things that you feel like help you turn this thing around and get on the right track? Like, what were your top three favorite things about Recovery Jumpstart?
I think that is definitely like the number one thing that benefited me from the program is just like first like learning that there's the psychological, kind of the emotional aspect of it, as well as the physical. And I think that like a lot of people like me myself just go into it so focused on the physical aspects because it feels like these are physical symptoms,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of getting, from you and the coaches, the reality check that like take a step back. You kind of urge people to kind of be open minded to the idea that these, like the triangle, the upside down polyvagal triangle, like
Yeah.
understanding where you are and like these physical sensations that you're feeling, these symptoms are like identifiable with various levels of like a hypersensitive nervous system. And just
Yeah.
seeing that, it's like, oh my God, like these tremors that you get. For me, I just would get them at night, but it's like, oh my gosh, like that makes sense, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when it makes sense, like when you're so lost and you don't know where you are in recovery, you don't know what to do, and the symptoms don't make any sense, when you realize like, oh, there's other people like in this stage who also feel the similar things I feel, and there's a reason I'm feeling this way, and this is how it looks. And like sometimes I feel better, I'm like higher on that triangle, sometimes I'm lower, and holy cow, it actually makes sense. And not just with physical symptoms, but even with emotions. It's just like freaking a huge light bulb goes off because you're like, wow, so this wasn't all random this whole time. There was actually some logic behind a lot of this stuff. It wasn't just a mystery this whole time. There's
Right.
reasons for it. So for you, how helpful was it just being alongside other people recovering, like being on calls and being in a small group, hearing other people's journeys and hearing their progress? How helpful was that?
It was super helpful for me. I think especially like in that jumpstart piece of it, because you can see all the other people that like you feel very isolated. And for me, I had never met anyone else, anyone that I knew or anyone that like any people that I knew,
Hmm.
so I just felt like super isolated, and just getting into a group of people and seeing them that are going through the same thing to varying degrees, was really helpful. Like you have other people that are in it with you and you're in this together kind of thing.
Hmm. Yeah. And for you, because a lot of what we do with people is lots of hands-on help. So for you, I mean, how helpful was it just knowing you can message your coach anytime? 5 days a week. And whenever you had an event coming up, you could ask, hey, am I ready for this? Or should I pull back? Or even getting back into exercising. Like, how helpful is that, just having that safety net of that coach in your back pocket?
That was super, super helpful because I think that for me, like, especially kind of getting the momentum, I was like, am I going to be like, I think I can do a little bit more, but should I? And it was just that extra, don't be
Yeah.
scared. You can do it. And obviously, like, they're not going to tell you to go, like, run a marathon right now, but like I was like, can I work out twice and then just see? Because I was doing this before and I think I can handle it. And they just, I think, kind of take away some of the power of that danger. Like just having a coach there with you
Hmm.
takes away some of that fear response of like doing it on your own and not knowing.
Yeah, it's kind of like having a personal trainer. If you're brand new to the gym and you're like, hey, I want to go do this, can I do it? Well, the trainer would either go, yeah, let's do it. You're ready. Or, hey, maybe you're not ready right now. If we did that thing, you'd probably get injured right now, but let's build you up to it. So here's an easier version of that thing, and we can slowly build you up, and we'll let you know when you're ready for it. So yeah, we definitely have that outside perspective looking in, because I know how difficult it can be when you're in the situation. And even if you're flaring up a little bit, if your nervous system isn't functioning completely normally, you're going to have a very biased perspective on things, and you'll be very risk averse. Like, things are going to be more scary than they seem. So just having that in your back pocket, I know it makes such a huge difference for people. So I want to talk more about probably the biggest differences, you know, mentally and even physically, from where you are now to right when you started the program, which wasn't too long ago, actually. It was about maybe 4 months ago, 4 or 5 months ago. What are some of the biggest differences you've seen, in terms of improvement?
I think number one is definitely my awareness level of like not just myself, but definitely like external contributors to that would normally make me go into fight or flight mode. Just having that radar of like how you feel and kind of how things are impacting you so that you can kind of get back to that baseline, like controlling your reactions to things. Cause I was so easily just, my like stress levels were so easily impacted by just things that would happen day to day. And in recovery, just reacting to really, really high amounts of discomfort and basically stress and stimulus. Like if you can handle that, like you can handle just regular life so much better.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like way, way calmer about things in general now.
Mm-hmm. You're able to respond to life stresses in curveballs a lot better than before, because you're absolutely right. Our tolerance for stress after recovering is so much higher than I feel like even a normal person's tolerance for stress. Because when you're trying to stay alive every day and you're like surviving and just really fighting, feels like you're in the fight for your life, you know, anything after that, it's very difficult to find things in life that are as difficult as that, than fighting for your life. So it's the same thing with me, and we see it with everybody. Their tolerance for stress is so much better after recovering, and they're just able to respond. I'd say, I want to say respond with more grace, but it's not always pretty, but definitely better than they responded before. You know, you might deal with something whereas if you dealt with that 5 years ago or 4 years ago, it would have stressed you out 10 times more than it does now. Right. So that's a great mental win. Right. And even just in a short span. And tell us about some other differences between now and, 4 or 5 months ago.
Yeah. I think another one that, and this was kind of a tool that I had learned to kind of utilize during my recovery, is to just like enjoy, kind of notice positive, like getting out in nature and just noticing beauty and kind of the five sensations a little bit more. Just
Hmm.
being totally locked into the present and kind of like get out of your head and kind of pump the brakes on any negative thoughts that could be perceived as dangerous. So just like even when I'm not feeling my symptoms now, I'll go for a walk outside and it feels way different. Like I feel like I now have this. appreciation for like the beauty and just the feelings of just basically the idea of like stopping and smelling the roses a little bit more.
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome, man. And touch more on working out too, because I know this is the stuff people are really interested in. It's like, oh, how much can he do now? Is he really, back to living his life again? So we were talking earlier before we started recording, your capacity when you started 4 months ago and your capacity now. So just paint that picture for us.
Yeah, it's very crazy to see the rate at which I've progressed over the last few months. But at the beginning, like I was saying, I could only do 10 push-ups and like 10 body weight air squats, and it was assisted push-ups actually too, so not even 10 push-ups.
Was it off a
And
counter or like a couch?
right, like off of a at an
Elevated
incline
surface.
basically to make it easier.
Yeah.
And that would set me off into a 3, 4, 5 day long flare up where I'd get the flu basically.
Hmm.
And I've been able to increase that. Currently, I'm lifting like 3 or 4 days a week, quite heavy, like heavy weights in the gym. I'm squatting, I'm benching, I'm deadlifting. I'm doing like really heavy stuff, and it feels good. Like my muscles are coming back and I'm feeling more energetic and strong. And yeah, the level of symptoms, like they didn't necessarily go away, but the intensity that I could extend to just before symptoms would kick in and get uncomfortable just is continuing to get further and further. And yeah, I'm noticing like even some of the discomfort and the symptoms is getting lesser too.
Yeah. That's pretty wild. So tell us about some numbers of, the deadlifts and bench. So, I mean, how heavy are you going?
Well, I'm not quite where I was before. I'm getting there, but I today I deadlifted like 275 for like
Holy
sets of
two,
six.
dude, that's pretty wild, man. So
Yeah,
two plates and a 25 on each side, basically,
yeah.
which is that's pretty heavy. Like that's awesome. And what are the other numbers?
My bench, I'm benching like 185 right now. I'm doing sets of six because that's what's worked for me in the past to just put muscle on. But 185 at bench, and I'm squatting 225 I think right now,
Holy cow. We're playing
which
with
is
some
just crazy. Like
big
thinking
boy
about
weights here. Yeah, just bench pressing. That's plate 25 essentially for sets of 6 when 10 push-ups off an elevated surface. That's equivalent to maybe a bar and 20 pounds on each side, maybe. 10 of those would put you in an AP for 3 to 5 days. Now you're doing basically a plate 25, which is awesome. And squatting 2 plates. Dude, and then how much do you weigh right now? Like 180, 190?
I'm still working off some of the long COVID fluff, but probably like 190, 195 ish.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm
But
not too worried. I'm not worried about it though.
yeah, yeah.
Just having fun.
You're benching your body weight, you're squatting more than your weight, you're deadlifting almost 300 pounds, and you're working out multiple times a week, that is that's very impressive actually. And what do you feel after that? Like just minimal symptoms, mainly soreness? Like, do you still get some flare ups here and there?
Yeah, yeah. I definitely still get some flare ups. Like today, I actually did that deadlift and back workout, but it just feels like it's on the way to getting to that point where I'm just like needing a little nap the next day or that day.
Mm,
And that was kind of how it was before I got sick too, because those are hard workouts. Like a normal person is going to need some rest after that too.
yeah, yeah. Especially if you're working back into it, right? Like, because even just from a normal muscular level, like your body's still adapting to this level of stimulus. Even for a normal person, they'd be tired, right? So that is freaking awesome, man. And you've done that in pretty short time span. So I didn't even know you're lifting that heavy. Like, I'm still pretty mind blown about all of that. And for people who are watching this right now and they're where you were a year ago, right? And they're feeling kind of hopeless, or they're looking for inspiration and they want to get back into working out. but the doctors are telling them no, they can't find a solution to all of this. What's some advice you would give them? An even better question, actually, what advice would you give to yourself a year ago, knowing what you know now?
I would definitely just let them know that there is hope. There might not be a magic pill for this, but definitely, this program that you've created, Miguel, is I think the best one out there by a long shot. And you may be able to do it on your own just by watching, YouTube videos and some stuff that you've created. But it's definitely, if you want to recover, as fast as you can, it's really beneficial to get a coach and to sign up, because
Hmm.
it's super hard to do this on your own. Like, this is a really complicated illness.
Yeah. And I remember when you came on board in your notes that Dirk took on the call, he mentioned, this guy, he's pretty solid. He's not couchbound, he's not bedbound or anything. He's actually probably 80% there, but he's looking for some very specific structure, some kind of specific roadmap to just get this whole thing over with so he can get his life back, essentially. So, no matter, I like to tell people, no matter where you're at, if you want to get to thriving health just faster than the pace you're doing it right now at, reach out. This is exactly what we help people with. And in terms of any golden nuggets you want to share with people, probably what's the biggest takeaway or biggest thing you've learned in the last 4 months that you think has moved the needle the most for you? Because I'm sure people are thinking, man, what's John doing that I'm not? What is the magical thing here? And there is no magical thing, but what was probably the most helpful thing for you?
I think the most helpful thing is, and I think it was wrapped up, it was kind of a funny video that Junior did on, like, don't worry, basically, don't worry, like, you are safe. What you're in is an adjustment period. And I remember watching that, like, in the beginning when I was newer to, like, learning it, but just getting that ingrained in your head that, like, you are totally safe, like, just really eliciting emotions of safety and self-loving and really soothing yourself down through those adjustment periods is like one of the biggest things that'll help you recover. That's basically neuroplasticity right
Hmm.
there.
Bringing it back to a sense of safety and like neutral emotion versus negative emotion like fear, anxiety, anticipation of things, all the things like that. I think I know exactly what video you're talking about. Is it in the Adjustment Period Care Kit
It
channel?
is. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I know exactly which video you're talking about. But yeah, it's been helpful for a lot of people. But I'm super excited to see your journey unfold. It's only been 4.5 months since starting, and I can't wait to see where you're at in another 2 months or another 6 months or by the end of the year. Where your weight room numbers will be at, how much more muscle you put on, and how much more you'll be thriving. You know, but is there anything else you want to share with people?
Um, I would say, I think that one other thing that I would share is just, like, on top of the program and the coaches that will really help you, and Miguel's videos, like, there's a lot of other resources and kind of ways about thinking about your symptoms and about this illness that exists, like, on YouTube, and as well as, like, Instagram. And so I think, like, Raylan Eagle really helped me a lot, just kind of soothing through it and educating about what's going on and what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
But as well as that Alan Gordon, the pain psychologist,
Mm-hmm.
reading both their books and, like, watching some of their YouTube videos was really helpful too, just to kind of, like, come at it from different angles, so
Mm-hmm.
you're really certain that you're going to recover.
Yeah. And the common thing between everything you just mentioned is all of these things are solution focused. Like there's an actual solution in place versus all this fear mongering of like, you know, trying to get advice from forums or certain Facebook groups of people who haven't even recovered yet, trying to give each other solutions. Right. So look for a trusted source, someone who's already done it and somebody who is still doing it right now and actually helping other people, not just themselves, but they have a proven track record to either inspire or educate or any of those things. But the biggest thing is, stay focused on the solution because it's very easy to get lost in the noise and go down rabbit holes of uh, possible health issues. So, you know, being focused on the solution is super important. I would encourage everybody to do that. So that's a great suggestion. Cool. Awesome, John. So Really appreciate your time on here. Thank you so much for sharing even just a fraction of your journey with us. I think one of the biggest takeaways is how you went from doing 10 push-ups and 10 air squats to benching almost 200 pounds, squatting, deadlifting 200 plus pounds. And obviously, for all of you watching right now, maybe that's not your goal. Maybe you don't want to deadlift 275 pounds, but you do want to go for a walk in the park. You do want to travel again and really live life with minimal symptoms and just increase your capacity, right? Because when you increase capacity, it opens up a lot of options for things for you to do in life. It just gives you your freedom back. So, this is how fast things can change. And it may not be in just in the weight room. It may be the difference between you being on the couch and being in bed all day to being able to have picnics with the family or go to social events with your friends again, or even go out for a run, a short run 3 months from now, right? The sky's the limit here, but this has been super inspiring. I think it will give people hope of what's possible because you've done it and you're doing it right now. And if John can do it, if I can do it, if other people can do it, then you guys can absolutely do it. We're not aliens. We're not superheroes. Although I was telling you earlier, John, that you do look like Clark Kent with your glasses like Superman. But it is possible, right? And don't ever give up. Stay focused on the solutions. Follow videos like this. But John, appreciate your time. Thanks so much. And all of you guys, always remember that you are just one mind shift away from living a life of thriving health. Thanks so much, John.
Thank you.